Might not look it now, but I took a huge gamble on this. When I first found this thing, it wasn't just neglected, it was a garden grave. Wow. Left to rot at the bottom of a garden, buried amongst the weeds, a shadow of the machine it once was. But somewhere underneath all the rust, I saw potential. And somehow, by some miracle, I rebuilt the Suzuki X7 into what you see here. It's taken weeks of work, stripping every last component, battling through seized bolts and years of grime, sandblasting, painting, rebuilding. This became more than just fixing a bike, it became a mission to bring something written off back to life. But this story is far from over, because the heart of this bike is still missing. The engine was a disaster. Scored bores, grime everywhere. It was clear this wasn't going to be a straightforward rebuild. Now, one thing I couldn't do myself was rebuild this crank. So instead I had a specialist do it for me. He told me he couldn't believe how difficult it was to split this crank. And honestly, I could well believe it. This is the guts of the engine, and getting it right is everything. A two-stroke crank like this spins at thousands of RPM and has to stay perfectly balanced. Even the slightest misalignment during a rebuild can cause vibration, poor performance, or total failure. And that's why I didn't take any chances. I'd love to now hear the Suzuki X7 run. So, let's get this engine put back together. There's something satisfying about this part of the process. No more digging through grime, no more rusted bolts fighting you every step of the way. Now it's just clean components, laid out like a puzzle that finally wants to be solved. It's strange how rebuilding an engine can feel almost peaceful after all the chaos, after all the unknowns. You stop focusing on what went wrong and start focusing on what's right. There's no panic anymore, just process. Every part has a home, the crank, the bearings, the gearbox, each one drops into place like it remembers how it used to be. And maybe, in a weird way, it does. Maybe machines hold on to more memory than we think. Of course, it's not really about the engine, not fully. This whole thing became a kind of a test of patience, of persistence, of whether I could take something that was written off, something buried and forgotten, and given a second shot. At this stage, it's not even about guessing, it's about trusting the work that got you here. Every stripped thread, every seized part, it all led here. It's in this quiet part of the build that it really hits you. This engine, once frozen solid with grime, is mine now. Not just in ownership, but in effort, in hours, in cuts and cracked knuckles, and as everything clicks back into place, it starts to feel alive again. Bit by bit, bearing by bearing, the heart of the X7 begins to beat again. Now then, before I add any more weight to the engine, I'm thinking, let's get it in the frame. This is one of those moments where everything slows down. It's not just about lifting a lump of metal into a frame, it's about care, precision, and a bit of luck. You spend weeks tearing everything apart, cleaning, rebuilding, and now it all hinges on this. Getting the engine in without scratching fresh paint, forcing parts, or pinching fingers. It's a little awkward, and far from graceful, but once it's sitting back in the frame, something shifts. The project suddenly feels real, tangible, like the bike is finally starting to come back to life. Right then, the barrels. They have both been bored out, honed, ready for new pistons. This stage is certainly quieter, slower, a different kind of challenge. The seat's off, the tank's out of the way, now it's all about clean hands, clean parts, and making sure everything fits just right. Base gaskets go down first, then the pistons, pulled straight from the box, fresh rings ready to be measured. I always double check the gaps. It's one of those details you don't want to rush. Bit of lube on the top end bearings, then guide the piston in. Lowering the barrels onto the crank takes a steady hand. You feel every millimetre. No forcing, no shortcuts. Then the second side, same rhythm, same patience. The moment they both sit flush, that's when it starts to look like an engine again. The engine is coming together rather nicely, which I'm happy about. However, I do have a slight problem. The float bowls have got great big holes in them. And that is a result of vapor blasting. Well, that's not a result of the vapor blasting. It's a result of having a bike sat at the bottom of a garden for 20 plus years. This is the price of time and neglect, quietly wearing away what was once whole. Okay, it's been a short minute. I've been away on holiday, hence the tan. And when I got back to a replacement set of carburetors for this Suzuki X7. For the sake of £70, I thought I might as well just replace the float bowls because, well, can you even repair the float bowls? I don't think you can weld them. If there's any way of repairing float bowls that you know of, let me know in the comment section below because I'd be really interested to know for future reference. What I'm thinking is these that I got off eBay, they look pretty decent to be fair, so I'm going to try and scavenge what I can and make the best set of carbs I possibly can. Now, just because these carbs are clean and vapor blasted doesn't mean they're ready to be bolted on. Carbs might look simple from the outside, but inside they're full of tiny passages, jets and seals, and every single one plays a part in how the engine runs. Get it wrong and you are chasing problems for weeks. Hesitation, poor throttle response, or worse, a bike that won't even start. The rebuild kit covers all the usual problem areas. New jets, float valves, gaskets and seals. Stuff that wears out over time and quietly robs performance without you even noticing until it's too late. So this part of the build isn't about rushing, it's about making sure each part goes in clean, seats properly and moves exactly how it should. A bit of care now saves hours of frustration later, because when the engine finally fires up, these carbs will be doing all the unseen work, mixing air and fuel at just the right ratio, keeping the engine smooth, responsive and rideable. If I get this right, the rest of the bike will thank me later. Wait until you see the Suzuki X7 back there. You won't believe your eyes once you see the transformation so far. Nicole hasn't seen the bike yet and she's about to lay her eyes on it, and we're going to get her opinion and see how things are progressing. What do you think?
That looks so good.
It's mental, isn't it?
I'm actually surprised. Compared to what it was, that's crazy. I love the colour.
That's a Porsche pearl red.
Oh, so you got a Porsche.
It's a Porsche red.
No, it's really, really nice. I can't wait till the end of it, to be honest.
Right, so I'm extremely excited to get this Suzuki X7 running. So let's crack on with the rest of this engine rebuild. After everything it's taken to get here, this is where it all starts to come alive. First up, rubber inlets. These form a tight seal between the carbs and the engine. No air leaks allowed. Then in go the carbs. They mix fuel and air before it's sent into the cylinders. Simple, but absolutely critical. Now the stator. This little guy powers the lights, ignition, everything while you're riding. Don't forget the woodruff key, tiny part, huge job. It locks the flywheel to the crank. No key, no timing. Flywheel on, it spins with the crank and keeps your spark in sync. This one's the oil pump. Feeds two-stroke oil to keep everything inside slick and safe. You get this wrong, say goodbye to your engine. Neutral sensor in, tells the bike when you're in neutral. Clutch push rod seal next, keeps the oil in and the mess out. Clutch basket drops in. This is where the engine power meets the gearbox. Inner hub slides in, it holds the friction plates and links to the transmission. Friction plates stacked up, these are what actually grab when you let off the clutch. Outer plate on top, locks the whole clutch pack in place. Kickstart in, front sprocket next, transfers the power to the back wheel. Small part, big deal. Head gasket down, seals in the combustion pressure. Get this wrong and you'll know about it. Cylinder head bolted up, this is where it all happens. Air, fuel, spark, boom. Airbox fitted, feeds clean air into the carbs and keeps the grime out. And finally, the clutch cover. This is the whole right side buttoned up, sealed and nearly ready to fire. But of course, no build would be complete without a little drama. You're not going to believe this, but I think we've got a major problem. Look at this. Cannot change gear, cannot select neutral first. That's very bad. That's very bad news. I'm stressing. Oh no. Oh no. This is what's happening inside the gearbox. These forks are guided by grooves in the shift drum. When the drum rotates, it moves the forks back and forth. That motion slides the gear dogs into place, locking different gear sets together to change ratios. But if anything sticks, jams or misaligns, you are going nowhere. Just quickly whip the clutch basket off. There's a shaft that goes through the gearbox to the other end that attaches to your gear peg. If you tap up or down on a peg, this goes or down, and those teeth hook into these teeth, and I'm hoping that this is our problem. When you move the gear lever, it rotates this shaft. Inside, a spring-loaded arm grabs the notches on the shift drum, clicking it round one gear at a time. Each click rotates the drum just enough to move the selector forks, and that's what changes gear. I'm praying that that is our issue. If not, then it's bad news. At this point, I'm really hoping it's just the ratchet mechanism causing the jam, because if it's not that, if it's deeper, then things are about to get very depressing. You try not to get ahead of yourself, but when you've come this far, the idea of tearing it all back down again, yeah, doesn't bear thinking about. I'll tell you what also isn't worth thinking about. Insurance nightmares if you finally get one of these old things running again. That's why I'm glad Bikesure are backing Bikes of Rye again. They've been a regular supporter of this channel, and for good reason. The thing with Bikesure is they actually get classics like this GT250 X7. They understand that this bike is more than transport, it's a passion, which is helpful because if this gearbox turns out to be a proper nightmare, I'm going to need all the help I can get. They do agreed value insurance, which is massive for classics like this. If the worst happens, you get paid what the bike is actually worth. And they tailor quotes to what you actually need, whether it's a project, a multi-bike policy, or something with limited mileage. You can simply give them a call to see what they can do for you. Thanks as always, Bikesure. Okay, so I've removed that little mechanism from the drum, and I'm going to try and get a tool to see if I can get any movement, any rotation, any play. If I can get any play in that drum, then that's a very good sign. Get this in there. Be careful. Oh, there's movement. That's selecting gears. Look. Oh, it's rotating. That's a really good sign. We might be really lucky. We might be. Oh, now I've got this dreaded part to put back together again. This is so fiddly, honestly. This spring. Okay, it drops in like so. And there's this little lug. You call it? Tiny little thing. All right, and I've got to try and balance that on there. It's going to prove very challenging on camera. I don't want to lose these bits. I know what you have to do. Try and compress that down. Oh, I caught it in one. I've got to try and hold it in place so it doesn't ping open. And then it goes in like so, like this. Moment of truth. Let's see if we've got so lucky. Yep. I've got no idea what the issue was exactly, but after pulling the ratchet mechanism out and reinstalling it, the gears are shifting perfectly. Oh, do you know what? I thought I was in big trouble. I thought I was in for a couple of days of complete pain. Finish the other little bits and pieces and get this bike ready to fire up. Oh! With the gearbox finally sorted, it's onto the electrics. This part always feels a bit like defusing a bomb, especially on a bike that hasn't seen a spark in decades. Let's just double check everything's all plugged in. So we've got the CDI into the stator, got the ignition coil all plugged up. Let's turn the key. All right, that's on. Oh, I did see light there. Did you see light? I thought that light was on. Just double check that. Oh, check it out. Things are looking real good. Let's check for a spark. Not getting a spark. What am I missing? I'm wondering if it's because I haven't got the kill switch hooked up. That might be our issue. Not seeing no spark yet, so it's not looking positive. Still nothing. Still nada. As I stare cross-eyed at the wiring diagram, trying to figure out if I've missed something obvious, fact is, with bikes this old, it could be anything. There is nothing I have missed. It's pretty easy, this wiring harness. It's difficult to go wrong. However, there is something that's causing me a little bit of suspicion, and that is the fact that, well, I've got two CDIs with this bike. Here's a spare CDI I found tucked away under the seat during the strip down. Was there an issue with the CDIs way back when this was put away? Because, well, why would you have two CDIs? Maybe there was a hidden problem nobody figured out. The kind of thing that made someone just dump it and forget about it for years. Now, given that this bike was essentially left to die and is so very old, I thought, why not order myself a brand new coil and new CDI. Then at least that way we can rule those components out, because quite frankly, I don't know what is preventing the bike from sparking. At least now I know these aren't the problem. Ignition on, kill switch set to run, and yeah, we're all plugged in. So let's try and kickstart it and hope we get a spark. You won't believe this, but we're getting a spark. So pleased. I'm so very pleased. Seeing that spark was a first real sign of life. Now it's just a matter of getting everything ready for the big moment. Now I suppose it's about that time we try and start this little Suzuki X7 barn find. So we know we've got a spark. All we need to do now is add some fuel. We'll have compression, obviously, because the whole top end has been rebuilt. And there's not much more to it. So yeah, let's add some fuel and see how we get on. Now it's just the last bits. Dropping the bike down, hooking up the fuel, making sure everything's ready to go. This is the point where all the hard work either pays off or shows me what I've missed. This is the stage of the rebuild which gets me a little worked up because we've come so far. We've spent so many hours and now we're finally going to start it for the very first time. Oh, I am so very nervous. If we hear it fire up into life, you need to hit subscribe because why not? Let's see if it kickstarts. All right, carbs are being fed petroleum. That's a good sign. The carbs are holding fuel because they're not leaking. There is so much compression. That scared the hell out of me. But that's so loud, I can just tell if I get that running properly, that's gonna tear my eardrums out. Oh. Well, what can I say? Absolutely buzzing to hear that fired up. Oh, what a relief. And it sounds so crisp. You can tell it's a two-stroke. I love it. Absolutely love it. But of course, we've still got to get this bike roadworthy. And I think for now, we've done enough in this upload. So make sure you subscribe because we want to see this bike on the open road, don't we? We do. We definitely do. So thank you ever so much for watching, and me and this Suzuki X7 will see you in the next upload. See you later.